Why, hello, my loves, and welcome back to Spook Manor. Tell me, have you heard of my dear friend, La Llorona? She is a weeping and wailing woman well known to Central and South America, in addition to the Southwestern United States. It is the Texas version of her story that I will be sharing with you today, as told through the experience of a young single father and his precious 9-year-old son. Would you care to join me as we make our way down the creeks and rivers to where only the cursed dare to play? Then let's begin. Sam was a caring father to his young son Daniel. At the age of 35, Sam tragically lost his wife to a fatal car accident not long after his son was born. Determined to make a good life for him, Sam devoted most of his time to working hard and treasured what small amount of time he had to spend with his little boy. It was a rare occasion that Sam had any time to himself, and though he dearly loved his work at one of the largest firms in the nation, the pressures of the world were beginning to wear on him, and his son was showing a desperate need for more attention. It had become apparent that the pair needed a drastic change. In a remarkable twist of fate, Sam received an offer to buy out a very successful yet small business in a quiet area outside of San Antonio, Texas. It was an ideal situation. Sam would be within walking distance from home and could be there for Daniel as needed. The newly built ranch-style home was perfect for their little family. There was plenty of space for Daniel to play, and Sam appreciated the privacy the property had from the main road. There was a gorgeous sprawling woodland out back, which allowed for hours of exploration, and lovely waters provided endless fishing opportunities. The only thing that bothered Sam was the name of the location, Woman Hollering Creek. It didn't take long for them to settle in. Daniel ran all over the property on the first day, while Sam enjoyed the fresh air. This was exactly what they were looking for, and it appeared they were destined to have a life that was happily ever after. It was midwinter, and Sam quickly found himself flooded with work. Daniel was busy in his own right and would often disappear in the woods for hours at a time after school. But when he began skipping school, Sam had to step in. After asking many questions, Daniel explained of having found a new playmate. As the conversation ensued, Sam soon realized that this new friend, a woman, was only imaginary and didn't exist at all. Being a loving father, he had compassion for the boy's circumstance. He could only imagine the loneliness Daniel must be feeling, having just started at a new school mid-year. Grateful to be understood, Daniel promised to stop skipping, and Sam quickly forgot about the child's mystery friend. Then one day, as Sam sat at his computer, he heard a voice calling from outside in a foreign language. It was too far off to tell exactly what the voice was saying. Slowly, Sam got up to take a look. It was the voice of a woman, screaming in Spanish, coming from their backyard, wailing at the top of her lungs in agony with a high-pitched, screeching voice. Quickly, Sam called out to his son. Upon receiving no answer, Sam went running out into the backyard. After a fierce, though short search, Daniel was found deep within the woods, standing in the creek with water up to his knees, staring off as though in some kind of trance. With anger and fear burning in his ears, Sam grabbed his son and hollered, "Why didn't you answer me?" "I wanted to know why she was screaming," Daniel replied with concern. Who was screaming?" Sam asked with deep worry in his voice. "The woman in white." "What woman?" "My friend. She is calling for her children. She said the tribe people were coming, and she had to find them before they got here." Daniel looked desperately into his father's eyes. Sam didn't know what to think. How did Daniel know what the woman was saying in Spanish? After telling little Daniel that his friend was only imaginary, he then used the opportunity as a learning moment to teach his little boy not to talk to strangers, especially ones that were screaming like madmen in the wilderness. Daniel never mentioned his friend from that point on, and Sam tried to forget about the incident altogether. However, after several weeks had passed, Sam was beginning to have a strange, reoccurring dream. A skeletal woman with long black hair covering her face would be calling to him from the river in the backyard. "Will you have me now?" she would ask while reaching out her bony hands. Sometimes the dream would be slightly different, and she would ask him, "Where are my children?" She was always standing alone, soaking wet and crying. Each night this would happen, and each night Sam would wake before she could reach him. Then one day, Daniel had disappeared. The police were called, and a neighborhood search ensued. They finally found him, standing in the creek, staring off into the woods, same as he had done before. Sam was furious and banned Daniel from leaving the property by himself again. "But she was calling me, Dad," Daniel would cry. "She wants her children back, and she wants me to go with her." One of the neighbors helping in the search overheard their conversation and quickly cornered Sam the second Daniel was out of earshot. "Hi, my name is Sophia, and I'm one of your neighbors helping in the search. I heard what he was saying, and what he is saying is true. He is seeing La Llorona. Where I'm from in Mexico, she is an evil spirit." Sam was grateful to the woman for helping in the search, but this was a bit too much for him to deal with after such a stressful event. He kindly thanked her and told her good night. With fear in her eyes, she insisted, "You must know. She will come again to take your son." That night, Sam awoke to the same nightmare, only to find the screaming did not stop when the dream had ended. The moon was full, and as Sam looked out the window, he saw his small son following the woman from his dream into the forest. The boy was holding her hand as she wailed and screamed in Spanish. Panic took over, and Sam ran with everything he had to catch them. Thank goodness for her screams, he thought, as they led straight to her. There was a loud splashing, and his son's cries could be heard, along with the woman's insane wailing. He arrived just in time to see the ghostly hag attempting to drown his child in the creek bed. Maternal instincts took over, and Sam bellowed with a warrior's cry as he charged forward, only to stop in his tracks when she turned to look at him. Yet she had no eyes. She had no facial features at all. She screamed, even though she had no mouth to call from. "My children, where are my children? You can't have them. Why do you let me live with what I have done? Will you have me now, evil men? I must have them to go on." "Not my son," Sam yelled. Daniel wasn't moving as he lay partially underwater. It is here that we are reminded that there is no greater force in the universe than a loving parent's determination to protect their child. Despite the terrifying creature in front of him, Sam lunged forward to save his boy. Oddly, the woman faded into a mist as the water splashed about Sam's feet. Quickly he scooped up Daniel and laid him on the hard ground. Though unconscious, he was still breathing. Suddenly the woman's screams echoed throughout the land and waters. Her cries of agony were intense and ran a freezing chill through Sam's heart. With all his might, he scooped up his son and ran for the house. The police were called, and yet another neighborhood search ensued, only this time for the crazed woman. But there was little effort put forth, and they stopped the search within an hour. Sam was in a state of shock. He couldn't believe what he had just seen. It was then that Sam saw his neighbor Sophia standing with her husband. As he approached, he stated, "I saw her. You were right. Who was that woman?" Calmly, Sophia replied, "She is known as La Llorona, the Wailing Woman. My mother used to tell me her story. As a child, I believed the story was only to scare me, to stop me from playing alone down by the river where I lived in Mexico City. The legend has been around since the 19th century. It is about a beautiful woman named Maria who caught the eye of a rich man. Quickly they were married, and she gave birth to his twins. But one day, her husband became uninterested in Maria, and he began to travel for months at a time. Upon his return, he only cared to be with his children and rejected Maria. They say this made her resentful to her young ones. Then one day, Maria was walking with her children down by the river, and she saw her husband making love to another woman. Some say it was out of revenge and anger, while others say it was an accident, but Maria threw her children into the river, and they drowned. Upon realizing what she had done, she jumped in after them, but it was too late. She was so devastated by her own actions that she stopped eating and roamed the rivers seeking their lifeless bodies for months. She had become horribly grotesque and skeletal before her inevitable death. But her story does not end there. As she approached the gates of heaven, she was told she could not enter the afterlife until she found the lost souls of her children, and was returned to earth to roam the waters until they are found. They say she kidnaps and killed many children in hopes of bringing their souls to heaven, so that she may save her own doomed soul. It was then that Sophia's husband chimed in. He is a native to Texas and had lived there all his life. Of course, the story is different depending on where you are. There is a very specific legend in this area about La Llorona. The local story goes that this Maria woman was widowed, her husband having been horribly murdered by hunters from a native tribe. One day, she was out in the woods with her young ones and heard that these men were coming her way. Fearing that her children would be killed in the same brutal fashion as her late husband, she decided drowning them would be the lesser terrible of fates. Well, the native people were shocked at what they found. She stood there rocking back and forth, two small bodies laying dead at her feet. She began screaming hysterically, knowing the men were going to kill her, or worse, take her away. They didn't. Her screams and the horrific scene scared them so much that they took off, leaving her alive, alone, and completely dazed by her own insane actions. Some say she lost her mind and became consumed with denial about what she had done. She searched the rivers and creeks for months, with no help from the villagers who taunted, cursed, hated, and rejected her for her unforgivable deeds. Then one day, she gave up, and either drowned herself or stabbed herself to death. She did this, supposedly, in the same spot where she took those babies' lives. Tragically, small children are often found drowned or go missing completely in this area. So much so that they renamed this place Woman Hollering Creek as a way of warning newcomers to keep a close eye on their little ones. But there is more. It is said that La Llorona is cursed, and that terrible things happen to anyone who sees her. If you saw the Wailing woman, I suggest you prepare yourself for the worst. At first, Sam didn't want to believe in the curse, but it was soon after that Sam discovered the warning to be true. Starting with the tragic loss of Daniel's pet cat, a devastating house fire, and a horrific car crash, Sam promptly moved away from Woman Hollering Creek and found a new life in the misty mountains of Montana. To their surprise, the curse did not follow them, and they were finally able to live a life that was happily ever after. So tell me, my loves, have you been to Woman Hollering Creek in the great state of Texas? Have you met or been cursed by La Llorona? What version of her story have you heard? Please comment down below and like and subscribe for more fictional stories that are often of actual urban legends and sometimes have historical reference. See you next week and have a good night.